I never thought a few words about my patio furniture could ignite a full-blown suburban showdown, but that's exactly what happened. It started one sunny Saturday morning. I was enjoying my coffee, basking in the quiet hum of weekend life, when she appeared, Karen, striding across the neighborhood, with the air of someone auditioning for a reality TV villain role. Her eyes immediately locked on my outdoor setup, an eclectic mix of mismatched chairs and a small table I'd scavenged at a flea market. "Oh, that's your furniture?" she said, her voice dripping with mockery, loud enough for half the block to hear. "Looks like a yard sale exploded here." I froze, half in disbelief, half in irritation. I knew her type, someone who thrived on pointing out flaws that didn't exist in her perfect cookie-cutter world. But something inside me snapped. Instead of apologizing or retreating, I decided right then that if she wanted a spectacle, she was going to get one, but on my terms. Over the next few days, I started planning. I sketched designs, measured dimensions, and even browsed forums for inspiration. This wasn't going to be just a simple upgrade. It had to be something grand enough to make even HOA Karen pause. I imagined a space that felt like a personal resort. Plush seating, soft lighting, and most importantly, a fire pit surrounded by comfortable chairs. I even pictured a small bar where friends could gather, laughter filling the air while the neighborhood stared in awe or jealousy. I also realized this was about more than just furniture. It was about taking back my space, asserting control over my home, and showing that one person's petty critique wouldn't define my happiness. Every decision I made, from the materials to the layout, was infused with quiet defiance. I wanted a transformation that was functional, beautiful, and unmistakably mine. By the end of the week, the plan was set. I had a detailed blueprint, a shopping list, and a timeline that would turn my small, ridiculed patio into a luxurious outdoor lounge. I even started sourcing a fire pit with custom seating around it and a weatherproof bar, thinking about how many Saturday nights could be spent under the stars, far away from HOA Karen's scorn. Little did I know, as I rolled up my sleeves and prepared for a weekend of heavy lifting and assembly, that this project would become the talk of the neighborhood and spark reactions. I never could have predicted. Every nail, every board, every cushion placed was a small victory. A silent message that I wasn't just upgrading my patio, I was reclaiming my pride. The weekend I chose for the project was bright and crisp, the kind of weather that makes outdoor work feel satisfying rather than exhausting. I started by clearing the old furniture, each piece a reminder of HOA Karen's sneering words. It was strangely therapeutic, watching the chipped chairs and sun-faded table disappear into the garage, replaced by plans for something far bolder. I began with the foundation, leveling the ground and laying pavers for the fire pit area. Sweat ran down my back as I adjusted each stone, making sure everything was perfectly aligned. This wasn't just about aesthetics, it was a declaration. Every precise line and carefully chosen material screamed, "I control my own space." By mid-morning, my neighbors began to notice. A few waved, offering curious smiles, while HOA Karen herself appeared across the street, binoculars in hand, though she probably thought they made her inconspicuous. I caught her eye and waved casually, hiding a grin. This was already fun. Next came the seating. I selected deep, cushioned lounge chairs in colors that defied her bland neighborhood standards. Each piece was positioned around the fire pit in a semicircle, encouraging conversation and relaxation. The fire pit itself was a masterpiece, sleek, modern, and capable of throwing flames high enough to mesmerize anyone watching. I imagined evenings filled with laughter and warmth, completely untouched by her judgmental gaze. Then came the bar. It was compact but elegant, equipped with shelves for drinks, hooks for glasses, and a small fridge tucked neatly beneath the counter. Assembling it required patience and precision, and I felt a thrill with each completed step. This wasn't just furniture. It was a full transformation, a statement that my patio wasn't just usable, it was extraordinary. By sunset, the space was nearly complete. I added lanterns and string lights to cast a soft glow, creating an inviting atmosphere that seemed to hum with possibility. Plants and small decorative touches rounded out the setup, making the lounge feel like an oasis hidden in plain sight. And then I waited. I knew she'd notice eventually, because this wasn't just an upgrade, it was a spectacle. When HOA Karen finally sauntered over, her jaw practically hit the ground. "Oh, wow," she muttered, unable to disguise the shock in her voice. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured myself a drink, sat back in one of the new chairs, and let her gaze linger. This was my victory. Not loud, not confrontational, simply undeniable. Her disbelief was intoxicating, but I knew this was only the beginning. The lounge wasn't just about furniture or fire pits. It was about control, pride, and sending a subtle message that petty criticism wouldn't dictate my life. And if she thought she had seen the full effect, she was in for a bigger surprise in the days ahead. I thought I had anticipated everything, every scowl, every raised eyebrow, but I hadn't counted on how far HOA Karen would go. Within days of completing the lounge, whispers spread through the neighborhood. People stopped by under the guise of curiosity, peeking over fences or walking down the sidewalk just to get a glimpse of the fire pit. Plush chairs and sleek bar. Everyone else seemed impressed, or at least politely envious. Everyone except her. It started subtly. Notes tucked under my door complaining about unapproved lighting and obstruction of sidewalk views. Polite knock one evening turned into a lengthy lecture on neighborhood aesthetics. She gestured at my string lights as if they were evidence of a crime. "Do you even know the rules?" she demanded. I smiled politely, pouring myself another drink, letting her ramble while I silently counted each ridiculous claim. It was hard not to laugh. Then she escalated. HOA Karen called a neighborhood meeting, insisting that my lounge was an affront to community standards. She even suggested I remove the fire pit because it was dangerous and the bar because it was inappropriate. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had installed the lounge not to provoke her, but she had made it a personal vendetta, and now the whole block was caught in the middle of her crusade. I realized I had two choices: back down or escalate strategically. Retreat wasn't in my vocabulary. I decided to turn her obsession into entertainment. I hosted a small gathering the following weekend, inviting neighbors to see the lounge in action. There was laughter, music, and the comforting warmth of the fire pit. I watched from my chair as HOA Karen arrived uninvited, her face a perfect mix of fury and disbelief. She tried to critique everything, from the arrangement of the chairs to the color of the cushions, but the neighbors were too enchanted with the space to even notice her. Her fury grew with each passing moment. She stomped around, pointing at the bar, flustered by the fact that people were enjoying themselves on my terms. And every time she opened her mouth, someone politely, yet pointedly, ignored her or complimented the lounge. It was beautiful, watching the tables turn without me saying a single word. By the end of the evening, HOA Karen left, muttering under her breath and plotting her next move. But for the first time, I felt the sweet taste of victory, not just for the lounge, but for reclaiming my peace and joy from someone who thrived on control. My space was mine, and no amount of criticism could change that. Her attempts at sabotage were only fueling my creativity, and I knew the next chapter of this suburban saga would be even more dramatic, because she wasn't done. By the time the weekend rolled around again, I knew HOA Karen was plotting something big. Her muttering and glaring from across the street had become almost a ritual, but I was ready. The lounge had evolved into a full oasis, comfortable, stylish, and perfectly functional. The fire pit gleamed, the bar was stocked, and every chair was positioned for maximum comfort and maximum impact on anyone who dared criticize. I decided to host a casual neighborhood evening, fully aware that HOA Karen would appear. True to form, she showed up promptly, clipboard in hand, scanning every inch of the lounge like a self-appointed inspector. "I can't believe this is allowed!" she exclaimed, her voice dripping with exaggerated indignation. I poured myself a drink, leaned back in my lounge chair, and let her fury take center stage. This time, though, I had a plan that went beyond polite defiance. Instead of confronting her, I invited the neighbors over. People arrived one by one, drawn by curiosity and the irresistible allure of a fire pit evening. They were laughing, sharing drinks, and marveling at the transformation. HOA Karen's protests became increasingly frantic, drowned out by the chatter and cheer of everyone else. I noticed her shoulders slump as she realized her ability to control the narrative, and the neighborhood was slipping away. Then came the perfect moment. A neighbor casually suggested, "Why don't we all toast to creativity?" Everyone agreed, raising glasses as I sparked the fire pit. Flames danced, reflecting off glasses and smiles alike, while Karen's face turned red, a mixture of rage and disbelief. She tried to interrupt, tried to assert authority, but it was too late. The lounge had become a symbol of independence and enjoyment, untouchable by petty criticism. By the end of the evening, HOA Karen left in a huff, muttering under her breath, powerless against the undeniable charm and functionality of the lounge. Meanwhile, I leaned back, feeling the warmth of both the fire and victory. The patio was no longer just a space. It was a statement, a declaration that joy, creativity, and personal expression would always trump ridicule and control. In the days that followed, the neighborhood buzzed not about HOA Karen's complaints, but about my lounge. People stopped by just to sit, chat, and enjoy. I had turned a mocking comment into a full-scale triumph. And every time I sank into one of the plush chairs with a drink in hand, I smiled at the memory of her stunned expression. Sometimes, victory doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from living fully, unapologetically, and letting your actions speak louder than words. And in this little suburban corner, that lesson had never been clearer. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed watching me turn HOA, Karen's mockery into the ultimate backyard victory, don't forget to hit that like button. Drop a comment below and let me know what you do if someone tried to boss you around like that. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more epic HOA showdown stories like this one.